Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Smite Pro League. It is Sunday. It's day number 3 of week number 2. My name is hi-rez Bart. This is Tom F. Badinger. And, well, we have 3 big games coming to you today. It's a triple header, if you will. Normally we would do 2 games, but this is, of course, our Power Week.
Oh, yeah.
And, Tom, why don't you break down what we got coming up for the fine people today?
So we've got your Worlds teams coming at you. Just like yesterday, we saw some of the North American side. This time, the heavy lifting is going to be in Europe. Fnatic will play 2 games today, as you can take a look at March 15th. Fnatic will play TRIG, and then Fnatic will play the other World qualifying team, Titan. And then we'll travel over to North America and see Team Solomid face off against Mace of the Face and Denial Esports.
So in normal fashion, we'll have our 2 European games today on Sundays, 2 North American games yesterday. But then, of course, some inter-region, or not inter-region, but out-of-region play, I guess. The NA game coming up third and final today. Let's take a look at our standings overall, though, before we get into the action here today. This is how Europe is looking after yesterday, where it's Team Dignitas 2-0. Titan does pick up their first win, and we learn a little bit more about London Conspiracy here as they do go down to the boys of Titan.
Yeah, London Conspiracy, a very strong team, but Titan proving that they don't really have any rust coming through in the clutch and giving London Conspiracy their first loss. So London Conspiracy going to be the first team split down the middle, 1 win, 1 loss, but that opportunity is open to Fnatic, although I'm sure they want to wind up 2-0 as well. They have 2 games, as we said today, so they'll be able to figure out where they're sitting, and we'll be able to get a snapshot of the entire European League.
Yeah, we'll see if that kind of intra-esports momentum carries Fnatic through these first 2 games. Of course, their CSGO squad does take down the ESL1 championships, being the first organization to win 2 majors in Counter-Strike Go. And we'll see if they can win 2 games here on Sunday in the Smite Pro League. Let's go ahead and let it rip. Tom, it's game number 1.
Sure. Speaking of TRIG, as you mentioned them earlier, we just mentioned Fnatic. TRIG Esports also is one of the teams that we'll be taking a look at today. So let's look at their lineup. ADC Funballer and Trix Tank in there as well. Cuvo in the jungle. Lobster playing mid, and Zelia in the solo lane. Zelia really the standout player thus far for TRIG. They've played this season, and Zelia really brought home the bacon. Yeah,
also Funballer, a recent addition to this this core of the Swedes. And we'll see how they are able to do here versus a real test here in Fnatic. Let's take a look at them as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this squad, you know them as maybe SK Gaming from last season. We know them as Badger, Twig, Maniac, Reels, and Zeros. Well, if you have to pull one person out of this motley crew, it's traditionally been Reels.
Right.
I think that a lot of the times, though, a barometer for their success is in Captain Twig. As the mid laner for this squad, he opens up a lot of possibilities. Zeros is a it seems, momentum-based carry in the jungle. And Maniac, well, we know what he can do in the soul lane if you give him enough room to farm up.
Yeah, Maniac does very well as the rest of the team, but I agree with you that Captain Twig is really a good barometer. Reels will do his thing playing sort of cleanup role, and Captain Twig, if he's doing well in the middle lane, the rest of the team will do well as well.
Oh, Twiggy. Well, guys, if you want to tweet along with us, if you're watching at home, it's #SPL. You can tweet at the Smite Pro Twitter account. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and obviously you will be featured if your thoughts are good enough on the bottom ticker of the screen. Maybe they are. Maybe they aren't. What do you think? What confidence you have in the viewers today to give meaningful conversation?
I'm excited. A lot of times you see the viewers Smite game chat. Sometimes you see a rare gem, but Twitter's usually popping. So if you use that #SPL, you'll have some interesting conversation to engage with on the bottom of the screen for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see exactly how this one does shake out for Fnatic here. A little bit of some role swaps, a little bit of some lane swaps coming out from these guys. We'll see if it does go down, ladies and gentlemen. It's game number 1 here. Fnatic versus TRIG. Fnatic will be first pick, first ban out of the top side of your screen. And, well, we are back. Hello. Welcome back to us. 1 sec on picks and bans, guys. But we are underway. We'll be hopping into that one in just a second.
Yep.
Any predictions before we get into this one, or kind of secrets to success, if you will?
Taking a look at Fnatic and TRIG Esports, I mean, Fnatic is... TRIG is sort of the European complexity as we looked at coming into it with that idea that there is the rest of the crew and then there's TRIG. But the Worlds teams are here to play now, so it's really this is Fnatic's game to prove themselves. TRIG, we know how good they are. We know how good Fnatic is, but they haven't played competitively since January 13th, 12th. So that's a long time. It's really up to them to show us that they're not rusty. They've certainly been watching. They banned out Bakasura.
Yeah, well, they don't want to deal with that at Azalea.
Exactly.
It's one of those lanes that, while maybe not necessarily being the most dangerous thing to have in the mid game, and certainly doesn't belie any of their strategy to ban out a Bakasura. He doesn't really bring that much team fight impact. It's just something that can get out of hand very quickly and just destroy one side of the map. And he really just kind of sets up camp. He takes all of your your camps, and there's not much you can do to get him kind of out of that solo side of the map. It's Maniac will be going up against Azalea here. We'll see how they work that one. But it's Athena, Poseidon banned out on the red squad for TRIG, and it's Bakasura, Agni to finalize the bans from Fnatic. And they're going to first pick a Thor here.
Thor first pick is really no surprise. He's been prevalent not just Season 2, but all throughout professional Smite. His ability to just rotate anywhere he really wants to and provide both setup and damage for his team is really, really strong. Now, if you take a look at the side of Fnatic, they've banned out both Bakasura and Agni, who are great characters for their respective roles, but also very particularly targeted. Lobster, really known for playing Agni a lot of the time, so he's particularly good at that character, and Bakasura, as we mentioned, Azalea, so that's going to be a big impact for their team, not being able to have that. Hercules is going to be picked up, as well as Serqet, so Herc can go into the solo lane, or sometimes even the jungle. Captain Twig even has brought him to the middle lane, but we'll probably see him in the solo lane, and Serqet is undoubtedly going to go to the jungle.
Yeah, you can't. Well, we've seen solo lane Serqets. We've seen jungle Hercules, but that, of course, out of complexity.
Right.
It's going to be Sylvanus to match with the Thor, and likely the Hunter role going to be coming out here. Pretty interesting lack of priority out of that role, honestly. Usually we'll see the Xbalanque or the Cupid, vice versa, picked up or banned very early on here. So we'll be the Cupid. And Cupid, if Xbalanque is not already picked, Cupid seems to be the pick that comes on the board because he does have the edge over Xbal. So it kind of puts the pressure a little bit on to Trig here as he's kind of the natural predator to Xbalanque. We'll see what they like to pick here. Maybe going to be a mid. Some notable options available here. One thing that stands out to me is the Ra. I think will have a pretty big impact in this game. Thor, Sylvanus both kind of initiate into an area. Thor a little bit more mobile, but Ra very, very good, especially with that loading round to kind of deal with that. And there it is. Oh, I'm so good at this game.
Lobster also plays a very good Ra as well, so really no surprise there. Now, the interesting thing about Cupid is that Cupid does counter Xbalanque, as you said, Bart, but Cupid has his own counters in Ram and Freya, and also, I guess, sort of Kronos, which is
Artemis as well does fine against Cupid.
Yeah, so Cupid does counter Xbalanque, but it also opens himself up to other counters as well. So got to be, think about that a little intrinsically. Tier banned out. That's an interesting one.
I think, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like Cupid, however, seems to be a little bit better against Xbalanque than the field is against Cupid. Even though he doesn't have really great matchups outside of that one against Xbalanque, they're not as bad as it would be to be the Xbalanque fighting into Cupid.
Right.
Nemesis and Tyr banned out, so a couple of kind of controlling junglers. It's going to be, I suppose, the solo lane ban out for the Tyr here, with the Thor most likely going to the jungle. Nemesis banned out by Fnatic. They don't want their Sylvanus, their Thor, and what maybe they're setting up for a more tanky solo lane here with that Nemesis ban. But Xbalanque does get drafted, nonetheless, by Trig.
Yeah, so, I mean, Xbalanque, we keep harping on this fact that Cupid counters Xbalanque, and it's really just because of the cripple on the ultimate. It prevents him from using Rising Jaguar. A well-spaced Xbalanque can really figure things. Hades, I'm just
got a spicy pick here in Hades. Little spice there.
Somebody likes Divios.
Hey, somebody likes Hades. Hades, one of the winningest gods in the entire game.
That's true.
Across all game modes, across all player skill levels. He's exceptionally good. And, we're seeing him now with his kind of second roll-through in competitive play. And, yes, that Nemesis ban was a setup for a more tanky solo laner in that Hades.
Yeah.
Likely to be going up against Hercules or Ra. He's fine versus both. Synergizes pretty well in his kit with anti-heal, to be honest, and is pretty good against low HP, high damage characters like the Ra. Unlike the Hercules so much, but he can shut down the Hercules healing. But Ra may, if he looks to go for that damage, and no, they're going to surprise us here. It's going to be a... most likely support Hercules out of Trig. Trix kind of fits right into his MO, if you will.
Yep.
And that puts Vamana up against Hades. That's not a great matchup for Hades. Hard to really put a number on that one. We haven't seen it too much, but I don't think that Hades is going to fare too well against Vamana, honestly.
Yeah, basically Vamana can clear the wave without investing too much proximity into it. He can clear from a distance with his cone attack or his umbrella ring, whichever way he wants to go. Usually we see that cone attack, so doesn't have to stand in the wave, which is really where Hades gets a lot of his gotcha, if you will. Hades is a very gotcha type character where if you forget that you're standing in the wave and the fact that Devour Souls explodes minions onto you, well, gotcha, he can hit you for over 1,000. But if you play your pacing right and your spacing right, sort of like the Xbalanque Cupid combo, you can get by, and it shouldn't be too much of an issue.
It feels Hades similar to Cupid in that way. They both try to kind of surprise you with the combination of their spells and their ultimate and find those kills, and especially when they're paired on the same team. It's very easy to overextend versus that large, persistent AoE cripple from the Cupid and the burst damage that he puts out. Not to mention what Hades can do here. But let's go ahead and introduce your teams. It's Fnatic versus TRIG Esports, game number 1 in the best-of-3 series here from European Week 2, Day 3 in the Smite Pro League. It's Maniac on your Hades in the soul lane. Captain Twig out of the mid into the jungle as Thor. Zeros will be your mid lane. Kukulkan. That leaves Badja and Reels in the duo lane as Sylvanus and Cupid. Their opponents today, they are TRIG Esports wearing the red trunks but with the blue logo. It's going to be Xaylia in the soul lane as Vamana. Cuvo Fred in the jungle as Serqet. It'll be Lobster in the mid lane as Raj, signature Raj, I should say. Trix Tank and Funballer in the duo lane as Hercules Xbalanque.
An interesting thing over here coming out from Fnatic is the swap of the roles. You know, we've actually seen this happen. Captain Twig in the jungle and Zeros in the mid lane, but not really in games that matter. Bart. We've seen it a lot in community tournaments and sometimes when they're messing around with show matches and the scrims, but never have we really seen this in regular season play, especially in the beginning of the season when wins and losses mean so much.
Well, they've set Zeros up for success here. Arguably, probably not too much of an argument, but one of the easier to execute mid laners in Kukulkan. You basically put down those tornadoes and you wait. And as long as you don't get yourself out of position and you ward appropriately, it'll be a pretty tough contest from the gank you. Of course, it is a Serqet. She's very mobile. She does have the capability to really snag you right at tower's range and still secure that kill. We'll see Hades doing Hades here as he dashes forward and then starts detonating the wave. And really, that's one of his major strengths. But yep, Kukulkan should be pretty free here for Zeros to execute. And there's a lot of built-in synergy with this team and that Kukulkan. The Hades, Sylvanus keep them in place, Cupid as well on top of that. Thor as well, tons of lockdown to set up that ultimate. So look for the very, very passive Book of Thoth build coming out of Kukulkan here as he really is just going to be the nail in the coffin during these team fights. At least that's what he's going to be setting up for.
You know, it's very interesting to me, going back to that role swap on the side of Captain Twig this time around instead of Zeros as we ride along with Kuvo Fred. It's very interesting to me to see Captain Twig go in the jungle. One of Captain Twig's real claims to fame, especially in the middle lane, is his ability to just outplay his opponent 1v1, which is usually more of a solo lane mentality. Captain Twig, a veteran of the Masters Joust scene, really does that 1v1, and the jungle is a very different mentality, Bart, so interesting to see that role swap come out.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of take on it there. That how will he fare where he isn't setting himself up for those just outskilling a single player opportunities, or will he play the jungle that way? And well, you know, you got to see maybe this Fnatic squad, they're still kind of getting into it. Thor, a pretty easy to execute with jungler as well, insofar as that he's just so old in the game that like everyone knows how to play him, how he works.
Very true.
So it just not a high execution requirements squad out of Fnatic here. Very team fight oriented. Not trying to do anything fancy, and I love that considering that this is their first real test switching these roles outside of scripts.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like when you see a Nemesis played on LAN. A lot of times if you watch Smite LAN, Nemesis is one of the first junglers picked up, regardless of meta or whatnot. And that's because she's easy to play on LAN when you're adjusting to that lack of ping. To come back into that sort of arena, it's nothing too crazy. That's what we're seeing out of Fnatic as they get ready for these mid camps. They're just going for the safe picks that they're used to. They don't want to bring out any crazy stuff like Vulcan jungle.
Well, not sure who got those first camps. It was fast and furious. We'll take a look at the graphs here and see. It did, yeah, it was indeed. Fnatic picks them up, and then on the other side, TRIG, the equalizer. So all things square there between the two teams at the 3-minute mark.
No fight.
I guess one thing to kind of point out here as the game is going, first real item is finished on to Vamana. He rushes that Stone of Guy and has it complete, so don't expect much action out of that soul lane anytime soon.
You know, it doesn't surprise me, actually. I mentioned no fight as we have a fight in the middle lane, but Captain Twig will use Mjolnir's Attunement to get out of there, no problem. It doesn't really surprise me that we didn't see a fight at the 3-minute mark for the mid-camps part. Talking about how Fnatic has a very low execution lineup right here, I expect them to be more passive this game. I don't really expect to see much aggression coming out from them. I think all the fights will be picked by TRIG Esports.
Certainly not in the laning phase. Exactly. You may see that Thor get a little active and try to set up a kill here, as Thors do when they hit level 5. But through the rest of the laning phase, yeah, they're probably looking to get through it and get to the team fight phase where they can really excel. Versus TRIG, maybe a little bit more of the pressure on them. They actually want to take this game quite a bit later. Fnatic has a great mid-game lineup, and that's going to be the story of this game. It's going to be, can Fnatic's this mid-game pressure that they're putting up without a true kind of siege engine healer in kind of like the Ra that TRIG has, can they get enough towers, can they get enough done around the map to prevent TRIG from being even moving into the late game period where Xbalanque, Hercules, Serqet are going to really shine and make room for that Vamana to come river dance on everybody.
Yeah, the only healer that Fnatic really has is Badger on the Sylvanus, so you can't forget about Maniac on that Hades. A lot of people, as we mentioned, Hades is an underpicked character here in RSPL. Hades can heal his teammates with Devour Souls. If it hits minions or the enemy, it'll actually heal his friends, which is why, Bart, our item highlight of the week, Lotus Crown actually works well on him.
It's disgusting. Have you ever played it?
Yes.
Lotus Crown Hades? Yeah, the only problem is that heal, as you mentioned, it does require you to detonate those stacks of his passive, Blight, which are applied by using his other abilities or in hands, which means you need minions or enemy targets around you to get that heal. So it's just not reliable in the same way.
Yeah, it's not an on-demand heal.
Yeah, it's not. And it doesn't maybe most importantly allow them to siege effectively into these towers. They're going to need Fire Giant buffs or what have you to kind of supplement that regen. Well, we'll see how they do elect to play it as our predictions continue to be correct. It is a fairly monotonously paced game here. No kills at the 5.5-minute mark, and really no pressure being started around the map. Both teams happy to wait for their timing here. They just they happen to come a bit later on the side of TRIG Esports.
Yeah, the teams right now all up even as 20 seconds towards 6 minutes approach. Teams will start to mount themselves near the middle lane towards the middle camps. As you can see, the bottom right-hand side of your screen on the map, those circles are almost fully white, so these mid camps will spawn very, very soon. We might see a fight over here if TRIG Esports is feeling particularly aggressive, but as I said before, I really don't see Fnatic starting anything here. They don't really have anything huge unless Thor sets up a Kukulkan ult, but he's on the ground, folks, so not going to see much of that.
Yeah, you look at the Sylvanus itemization, it gives you an idea of what they're trying to do here as the mid camps are split. No Blink coming out here, 6 minutes in, level 7, he has his boots done already, marking the Vanguard. Who will be looking for that Hog 3, obviously, but this is kind of when you would expect to see a second mid-camp. You'd see that Blink timing coming out and looking for a pick, but not to be the case here for the boys of Fnatic. Badger playing this one close to the chest as they look. Well, they have to make a play some point here. They need a goal fury, I would say, before the 12-minute mark, hopefully, as well as some pressure around the map, maybe a tower set up for reals as well, or this one's just going to start getting ugly as that Hercules and the Vamana will become unstoppable frontliners for TRIG, and then it really comes down. This not execution-based lineup becomes extremely execution-dependent. Like, if those ultimates are fired and they don't find kills all of a sudden, they find themselves really far behind, whereas at this stage in the game, they can kind of go in willy-nilly and just dump those giant circles and find some kills.
7 minutes in, folks. Still a tie game right here. Let's dissect this dual lane, as we haven't really mentioned it too much, or we haven't really been here, mentioned it too much. Badger and his opponent, TRIG's Tank, are really sort of outside of the situation. Right now they're here, but they've been outside of their lane more often than not, so their story really is about Funball and his Cupid nemesis, reals. Interesting pick for reals to pick on Cupid. Usually we see him pick more cleanup-style gods, most notably Rom, characters that can come from the outside and then clean up after everything's done. Cupid is more of an initiation character, wanting to drop that Fields of Loves early on during the team fight. So different mentality coming out from the Hunter on the side of Fnatic, but should work out for him. Yeah,
it requires a little bit of a different skill set. I like your train of thought there. Real's normal setup is a Rom. Let's take Rom as the kind of ultimate Reals god.
Reals god.
Kind of whittle them down. Your team initiates, you stay back, you snipe it off, and you continue farming. Versus Cupid, and Cupid kind of plays, as we're kind of touching this at the beginning of the broadcast as well. Cupid's playstyle is ideally this one in which you're like the Zen master, and you realize the one moment at which it's going to be best for you to do your thing. Right. And if you have that kind of foresight, you can see through all the clutter of the team fight and go, this is when I heart bomb their carry and drop my Fields of Love. You get kills, and you can really turn the game. But if you miss that moment, you are nowhere near as effective as you basically, your ultimate is extremely easy to just run out of or pop beads and avoid. I mean, it's a really low percentage ultimate, unless you use kind of right at that exact perfect time where everyone's dumped everything. So good luck to Reals here, as it is a little bit outside of his comfort zone.
We'll see how it sets up, though, as the battle rages on. Hades over here in the solo lane, getting his farm, particularly nothing too crazy going on with Zelia versus Maniac. Bart said at seeing that Stone of Gaia that this would be a very slow-paced lane, and this is exactly what it is. There really is no gank that Zelia can't withstand. Thor dunking on him with an ultimate coming out from Hades, he'll be able to clear the path out of it. and it really won't hurt him too much. So that's pretty much all that Fnatic can really throw at that solo lane without investing in the mid laner, which even then would be a little rough as he's building magical defense. So Xaylia, really don't expect to see any aggression onto that player at all.
Warlock Sash, not even close for this Alquang, or I'm sorry, this Kukulkan, as they look to try to stall out for that item. That's got to be the item they're looking for. They have Dev's Gloves, they have the things they need to really kind of fight if they want to at this point, but maybe just a little bit unsure in this this lane swap here, and they want to wait for this item to come out, or he could be rushing that Book of Thoth again. Only has that rank 1 into the Warlock Sash, but I'm worried about this timing for Fnatic. It seems to be running out a little bit. I mean, it needs to get going here in a hurry for them, because they want to be winning this game by pretty much no later than maybe 27 minutes, 30 minutes at the absolute extreme latest, assuming that at that point that they're basically just sieging Phoenixes and they've shut off all of TRIG's farm.
Yeah.
Because they don't. Xaylia, basically complete free farm versus the Hades. Cuba Fred hasn't really had any issues in the jungle yet, and Serqet scales exceptionally well, as does the Hercules hi-rez. So it's dangerous timing.
Fnatic has run into a long history of fed Vamanas in the late game, going all the way back to path to 100K, the launch tournament, watching them face up against Game Hunter on the previously known as Team Solo Mid Squad. Just Game Hunter able to just get that farm onto Vamana and just pentakills galore pretty much. Xaylia is going to be able to do the same thing. We're talking about low execution here, folks. It's really just item-based, timing-based when it comes to Vamana. So he's a time bomb, but if you let the game go on too long, Vamana will get to a point where he can just press W and left-click you for some basic attacks and completely obliterate the majority of your lineup. So Fnatic really, as you said, has to get this game going sooner rather than later.
Yeah, there's only one good way to fight the Vamana, which is fight him before he has 5 items.
Yeah.
At 4.5 items, it becomes a problem. At 5 items, he kills your team. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how Fnatic looks to deal with this one. It's no kills here, 11 minutes into game number 1 of Fnatic TRIG Esports in a best of 3 here. Fnatic is your blue squad. TRIG, your red squad in this one. It's pretty much all square. Both teams farming the map basically effectively the same. Only a couple hundred gold separating them now, as you see those graphs are very, very, it looks like a heartbeat monitor.
Well, that is a heartbeat monitor of somebody that needs to go to the doctor very soon, but their heart is beating a little too fast.
Hey, it's a hype game.
I mean, it's pretty much the opposite of what's going on right now. Sort of might see a flat line going on. And actually, as we approach the 12-minute mark, this is the...
Have we even seen an ultimate yet?
No. This is officially the game. I think our latest First Blood was around like 8 or 9 minutes in Europe last week. So 12 minutes in, this is going to be the longest game without a kill, which is very strange for our game here in Smite. It's generally very hyper-aggressive, especially around those mid-camps. But Fnatic and TRIG have opted to just share the wealth.
Well, Twiggy,
we're
you going to make a play, buddy?
No,
he's not.
It's funny how you can read the mind thought process of this play. He walks over to the Gold Fury, asks his left laner, hey, can we do this? He says no, and he immediately turns around and goes back to eating Cheetos.
Yeah, do you think they have a ward here? No? Okay. Well, mid-camp's coming back up. Left side of your map, it looks like it's going to be, heavily squatted up by Fnatic here. And right side is going to go to TRIG. No one wants to fight.
Yeah. Well, they got those mid-camps in.
Oh, Sylvanus. He's got a root out onto Ra. He's going to be able to pluck. Oh, just off the mark there as Badger Serqet runs into Hades here. And we may actually get a fight coming out. There is the Kukulkan ultimate being used. It does hit Ra. Thor trying to follow this up, but he's just not going to be able to do so with that Xbalanque ultimate used defensively there. Funballer, nice timing on that one. Team calling out for it, and still no first blood, 13 minutes.
I love it. You know, yesterday I said the Xbalanque ult, a well-timed Xbalanque ult like that can really just plant the seed of uncertainty into the player's head. You know, is it the one person that I'm chasing, and is Xbalanque on the other side of the map, or is Xbalanque and 4 of his friends coming up trying to, bait me into something? I'm going to walk into a massacre. You really don't know, so you're forced to turn around if you want to be careful. And right now, at this point, First Blood will still be worth extra gold, Bart, but I think First Blood will be worth extra momentum more than anything. You don't want to be the team dying first at 16 minutes.
At this point, it shouldn't be too difficult to convert a kill into a Gold Fury, unless, of course, it is a gank onto a solo laner. Unlikely then, as you would probably lose your solo lane tower if you went for it after the kill. But everyone's starting to get their 2 abilities of choice maxed out here. Level 2 ultimate's going to come onto the board here fairly soon as well. So things are moving along nicely for both squads. But one of the squads has a Vamana and a Xbalanque, so
Yeah, Xbalanque definitely the Vamana and Xbalanque are definitely a little more scary than a late game Kukulkan. Cupid doesn't really strike fear into the eyes of anybody. He's ability based, Bart, so he's much more. Cupid is a hunter just like the rest of the hunters. His basic attacks go out consistently, but Xbalanque is really the one that's going to chew through your whole lineup, whilst Cupid is going to get a particular 1 or 2 kills and help the rest of your team out. So that going into the late game, just the thought process and mentality of those two characters, Xbalanque definitely on the upside of being on a slow-paced game.
Well, we'll continue on along here. Farming up waves. We do have the Warlock Sash complete on Kukulkan there, so he's starting to build up a bit of tankiness. Got one also rocking there onto the Hades in the solo lane for Fnatic. On the side of TRIG, it's Vamana building his first damage item, the Executioner. Really more of a setup item than a damage item, I guess. Serqet with Jotun's Wrath, also done on Thor. And Warlock Sash, also to the credit of Raw. So taking up and getting ready to fight at some point in this game, one would think, are these squads. But you can be sure when this fight does break out, it's going to be a long one, as there's a lot of HP on both sides.
So why? Have you spoken to these players? Why the lane swap for Fnatic?
I don't have it out of the horse's mouth on this one, but I will venture a guess that Zeros was a little bit too unreliable in his strong desire to play gods like the Thanatos, the Thor, very initiation-based gods. I guess just didn't like the style they were playing given his initiations. That would be my guess, as he was very heavily skewed towards his initiators. So it could have been a god pool thing, could have been a style thing. Maybe they wanted to play a little bit different, but they do drop the Thor nonetheless. And it is going to be the first fight breaking out. Here's the Gold Fury, gets picked up by TRIG, and we might not see a death on the back of this one. It's just taken away by TRIG Esports.
Was very sneaky. I mean, cameras and casters didn't even catch it. TRIG just sort of grabbed it at the top and snuck out that Gold Fury. Really nothing Fnatic could do. Taking a look at the map, not too much vision around there for the blue team, so able to sneak that one by, and with that Gold Fury in the books, it's going to be about 1,000 gold in the lead. Not too huge of a lead considering we're 16 minutes in, but definitely the start of something. 7
ultimates used. No kills netted for either squad here. But a Gold Fury for the boys in blue. And I think, to me, TRIG Esports is just loving it.
Yeah.
Right. not only are they playing a much more late game-oriented squad, they also are really looking to prove themselves here. This team definitely considers themselves, maybe rightfully so, as one of the top squads in Europe.
Oh,
but
yeah.
the kill death, not really, their win-loss rate, rather, not necessarily living up to the hype there. So this would be a big kind of statement game for them to win, or statement series, I suppose, for them to win.
I definitely agree with that mentality. We're seeing Funballer get a little excited over here as he aggresses onto the Cupid, but no, not too much is going to go on. He's going to force Cupid out of lane. So, going back to what we were talking about before about Fnatic and their role swap, Zero's in the middle lane is interesting. I'm excited that they picked up him on Kukulkan. I want to see where they go elsewhere as far as his god pool is concerned in the middle lane, because those characters from jungle and mid are very different.
Yeah. Both teams doing very well here in Creep Kill Simulator 2015. They have lots of creep kills. And, 100 structure damage done this game on the back of the Hades area. Yeah, let's look at the minion kills. It's Kukulkan out ahead at 183, 177 for the Raw, 167. Trading back and forth with the Vamana is the Hades. Both of them are at 170. And then Xbalanque 5 CS ahead of the Cupid. It's a real slobber knocker here, ladies and gentlemen. Poor Sylvanus, 27 last hits to his name.
So if the opposite of this is a barn burner, is this a barn saver?
This is like
putting the fire out?
This is like a
barn raiser?
A barn tsunami.
So TRIG Esports, as Bart mentioned before, the core really, Kivo, Fred, Trickstank, and Lobster coming out from the squad previously known as Team Solo Mid. Funball and Zelia brought over from what was Fnatic. So many swaps and organizations here, but one of the big question marks going into this season as the team picked up Funballer was Funballer's previously been on a lot of teams that have broken up or gone separate ways, and even the collapse of Fnatic was raised a couple of eyebrows. The personality thing is definitely a big question here, and coming up to week number 2, this is the conclusion of week 2 going into week 3, it's been all quiet on the TRIG front. So do you think that's just the maturity of the person himself, or the TRIG sort of organization, as you noticed, is very like royalty?
I would like to say that it is maybe a factor of Zimstar, manager for the squad. TRIG, pretty damn serious about this whole esports thing.
Very professional.
They've definitely impressed upon the players that they take this very seriously. The players are, kind of compensated well for their time, and they treat it more like a sport. They only want the players practicing 3 or 4 times a day, or 3 or 4 times a week. I'm sorry. Physical exercise. Meal regimens. This whole thing, right, is kind of how they approach it. So
it's it's so interesting to see the culture of TRIG Esports. You see it a lot in not just in our Smite scene, but they've expanded to other games as well, and see the culture of their sort of company and what they want to bring to esports as they're new to the culture is very interesting.
Yeah, and maybe all of those factors together with strong leadership coming out of Zimstar as well as TRIG management kind of lends itself to handling these personalities, big personality players better.
Yeah.
You see that echoed across lots of sports as well.
Yeah, I mean, being involved with traditional sports, the portal to the TRIG Esports website is actually TRIG Sports. So, that, as you said, the mentality is definitely the same. And
so we got out of position players. There's going to be a first blood here. Sylvanus using that ultimate, throwing a little bit off the mark with the Mjolnir's attunement, but now takes to the sky. And we will not actually see the first blood unless it's Thor. No, Hades coming into the ward there. Still no one yet. Nicely timed beads by Lobster avoids the pull coming through as Hades. He has an ultimate. It's a Kukulkan ultimate on top of it. It's the first blood to zeros, ladies and gentlemen. Fnatic in 20 minutes. They take it.
20-minute first blood coming out for the team in the yellow colors on the blue side of the map. Fnatic gets the first blood, as we said, 20 minutes in. They're not done. A little bit of aggression going on in the middle lane coming out from the new swap zeros, but Nightwell security thing, that's the wrong team. And now Serqet picks up one as well. That's an even trade in an extended fight. Hades looking for one, but Funball will get away.
Yeah, that's a really difficult position to find yourself in, where it's a Hades and Sylvanus in hand that need to secure a kill.
Oh, yeah.
Both of them pretty ineffective with those. We may see, oh no, that's a great silence by Maniac. Definitely saving the life of Badger there. Heart Bomb going to stun out in the backside the Hercules there. And, well, the siege will continue. And as we normally see in games like this, they turn into a bloodbath very quickly after the cherry is popped, so to speak. and it's a 1-1, 21 minutes in.
They're going to pick up first Rebel as well, picking up that mid lane tower. And they're going to add to their coffers. Fnatic turning their sights onto the Gold Fury. Taking a look at the minimap. There's only going to be 2-3 players of resistance on the side of TRIG. They're going to want to turn it into a fight because they don't think they can save it. Hades ultimate on top of Cupid ultimate. That's going to stop people. Objective goes the way of Fnatic, so they'll have that extra gold. But here comes Zelia, stopping on the curb, and he gets one. He's looking for more.
Oh, here comes that ultimate on the backside. Oh, it was so close to just finishing off Xbalanque there. This fight continues on as Twig comes crashing down. Hard to believe it's the second Gold Fury of the game. My God. So thank you all of our wonderful viewers for sticking with us through a slow game there. And because of that, who has their Xbox One next to their computer and ready to go, or are watching via the Xbox One Twitch app? Because it's your opportunity to get in and involved in the alpha as Zelia finds his first kill of the match. And the Fire Giant continues from TRIG now as they are looking to recoup their losses at the Gold Fury, and will do so in spades. It's a Fire Giant buff to all 5 members of TRIG Esports.
Now that is one objective that you don't want to trade the other for. Fnatic picks up the first kill, and by definition, the first Gold Fury. But TRIG goes ahead and picks up the Fire Giant. Will probably help them a little bit more. And you were 100% right, Bart. The second that this fight went on, the second that the first fight happened, the entire scene, the entire game would blow up like a powder keg. First blood happened. They get another kill into a Gold Fury, into an immediate Fire Giant. At this point, taking a look almost a half hour in, this is sort of what we're seeing. There's so many ripple effects of single movements.
3-1 here. We're pretty close in gold. Honestly, this one is pretty damn tight, as you would expect for a game that has no kills. But sometimes you'll see just one of the teams getting the better of the map by quite a bit. Not the case here. Let's look in with Zelia as we're riding along with him. It's going to be an oboe coming out for the big baby here. So he's really looking to get in there and fight multiple targets. So look for him to be more of the initiator, less of that kind of rotating in late and cleaning up 1 or 2 kills. He needs to get in there early to make sure he gets lots of use out of this chain lightning. And of course, one thing Vamana does do is hit an AoEs when he's in his big baby form. So plus the chain lightning, it's a lot of spread damage out of the Vamana.
Yeah, so you've got the oboe, you've got the charged bow, which will build into the Odysseus bow, as you mentioned, but he has the Executioner, and I absolutely love this combination of high attack speed and the ultimate going into AoE. The Executioner debuff, the passive, of course, lowers protection by a percentage. It'll spread throughout the entire team. So his teammates can use that, sort of like we see a spear that Magus picked up on mages that want to help out their team. You're going to see this executioner work team-wide because of his AoE basic attacks.
Yeah, it sets up great for that the Hercules, the Serqet, the Xbalanque later in the game, taking away some of that armor. As you mentioned, it's a debuff on the god, not kind of bonus damage for the player, if you will. So, well, with this Fire Giant buff, TRIG, they're going to have a pretty sizable gold advantage most likely after this push. They have the better sieging team with that Ra. They have the Fire Giant buff to their credit as well. Now it's kind of up to Fnatic to make some big plays or concede a lot of towers here.
Yeah, Fnatic really has to try to play defense, and they've stalled the entire game. Now is definitely the time that they want to do that, and it looks like they are having a little bit of trouble. The siege from TRIG is definitely real as they're pushing up inch by inch, able to get more footing. Sylvanus ultimate and Ra ultimate not too good. A lot of whiffs in this particular fight. Honestly, it still seems like they're playing footsies. They're not really ready to make their position, but they've already blown their ults.
Oh, it's just the Hades ultimate and the Kukulkan ultimate remaining on the side of Fnatic here. No ultimates, I'm sorry. Funballer, Zaylee, and Cuba Fred all available on the side of TRIG. Where is Maniac going to elect to pop this thing? They're going to lose the tower soon. There's the big baby. He's going to try to zone out the team, and they're going to look at the chain lightning ripping through there. Oh, Badges in so much trouble, and they can't stay near him as Funballer picks up the kill on the Maniac. No Pillar of Agni to set up the Kukulkan ultimate. Granted, they do have it available to stall out one last wave, but TRIG Esports with the execution bring it right to Fnatic's doorstep, and they can't do much about it.
This is exactly what you discussed earlier as we just ride along with the Hercules, flipping and pushing. TRIG Tank really doing what he's supposed to do. Captain Twig does pick up a kill, so that's going to help out on the side of Fnatic, sort of slimming down the lines for TRIG, but this is exactly what you were talking about, Bart. At some point, we're just going to get to
he's going to find a lot of stuns here. It's 3. There's a spin to win on top of it, but Captain Twig, it doesn't have much to follow this up with. Real ZX does find the kill to Funballer as he tries to make it out, and it's a great initiation. It turns into at least one kill onto a high-priority target, but got to be careful not to give up too much here as Fnatic is zeros. If he gets slowed here, he's going to be in some trouble. Vamana doesn't care about that tornado. He's willing to fight into it. Heart Bomb there will slow him down a bit. It's going to stun up Cubo Fred as well. No, not stacked up enough. Here comes to clear the path. There's one Armored Umbrella. Oh, and zeros. Oh, no!
Beautiful.
What an ultimate out of that Sylvanus there to save them. But he will likely pay with his life as well. Azalea finds a double. Maniac gets credit to Cubo Fred. It's a bloodbath, but Fnatic coming out on top there. They find the Phoenix. I'm sorry, TRIG finds the Phoenix there, coming on the top, 6 kills to 4.
Yeah, TRIG got what they came for. Fnatic wasn't able to really play defense, but before that team fight we were talking about, that's exactly what you were talking about, Bart. At some point, Vamana will just be unstoppable.
Yeah.
And you saw Azalea, a single player. He wasn't able to get a quadra pentakill type thing, but he was able to put out enough pressure to force an entire team into their base, allowing the rest of his team, TRIG Esports, to pick up and clean up the objectives on the left-hand side of the map. They get not just 1, but 2 towers and the Phoenix. TRIG definitely looking very, very clean in this long-range engagement.
And he's also picked up the Shield of the Underworld here on the Vamana, which means he's reflecting 40% of the damage that he takes, as well as being, well, you can't lifesteal off of him. So when he does kind of move forward in that ultimate form, he can still activate this active ability. And that makes it so that it's very hard to actually fight him as well when he is kind of surging forward and pushing you off of the mark. So really a catch-22 proposed by Azalea here. Do you want to fight me and die, or do you want to not fight me and die?
Hercules Boulder comes out to provide a little bit of damage, but I think more about the CC immunity coming out from TRIG's tank. TRIG Esports still sieging, pushing down this middle lane. We'll look at Vamana trying to defend his jungle. Thor going to get a couple of stuns out, but not a lot of damage as he's naturally physically tanky against that Thor.
I mean, we've only seen really Fnatic. This is what I was talking about earlier on in the game. Oh, just off the mark there was Badger with that pole. Would have been potentially a big kill setup, but Ra beads active, so probably would have been okay. But where this Fnatic squad was once a very execution light kind of just throw your ultimates out, you're going to find some kills. Now, if one ultimate is off the mark, it spells disaster for them. You saw Sylvanus' ultimate force to be used defensively in that last engagement, and how TRIG was able to capitalize with that cooldown off. Maniac did not even really get out an ultimate worth anything in that fight, so they really have to pick their point, and they have to really commit hard if they use a single ultimate. Fnatic with their backs to the wall.
Badger has not had good luck with those pulls today, Bart. We really haven't seen one pull land, and you know those pulls are so impactful. He's taking the right angles. He's taking the right angles to prevent when you get the pull. it's easy to just walk away from it, but the pull comes through at the right angle, so he's getting the right positioning, just not able to nail the actual execution. And TRIG, on the other side of things, is just going to go ahead and even further their lead, picking up the Gold Fury. So as we approach that 30-minute mark, TRIG fantastically in the lead against Fnatic. They're going to lead by about 3,800 gold, so definitely doing the right things in terms of farm.
Yeah, TRIG definitely has been showing themselves to be the better objective squad here, at least in this first game, as they've not only secured that early Gold Fury, but also that Fire Giant, both of them relatively uncontested. Badja finds himself out in a strange spot. Azalea stomping all over his face. The team's trying to bail. They're going to be forced to stop for the hi-rez ultimate. The Sprint 3 going to be wearing out soon, but not before finding a kill. Azalea, still a big problem. The Maniac does get a good ultimate off. That Kukulkan ultimate coming through as well, but doesn't find his target. And Maniac goes down to Lobster just as the Spirit Tempest comes through, but the team able to split away from it. No kills netted for Fnatic. They lose their 2 frontliners, and that means Fire Giant is free for TRIG Esports at the 29.5-minute mark.
This game definitely looking more like TRIG's than Fnatic's, as we just see them go from team fight to objective, from team fight to objective, from objective to team fight. And that's exactly what they're going to do here, Bart, as they pick up that Fire Giant. They're going to go back. A lot of gold in hand for these players. They're going to go ahead and look to finish out their builds. We'll see final items come online in just a little bit. Meanwhile, Fnatic, quite a few holes on their bottom chart.
Yeah, they are maybe the most damning part here is that there's another 2,300 gold up on the Serqet, who already has her Deathbringer done, which means that she can build into her second crit item, which already is on its way. No, it's going to be a short sword and finishing off her actives. It's a Fist and Beats 3 finalized for the Serqet there. Lotus Crown up and running on the Ra, as you saw in that last fight. It's the Wingblade on Hercules as well, allowing him to stay mobile. And Xbalanque has built into his Deathbringer as well in this last engagement. So it's a lot of big, high-potency damage items for TRIG Esports. They are squarely in the late game here. This is kind of where we were saying it's going to start getting exceptionally hard for Fnatic. Yeah. Fire Giant buff as well, and they're going to come charging through the lanes here in the next few moments. Mid lane tower and right lane tower still standing. You got to think it's going to be a 4-man push down the mid and let Azalea just split push that right side lane.
Azalea attacking so fast. Really getting a chance to see that Odysseus bow at work. You're taking a look right there. Serqet with this flame buff around him, the Fire Giant belt, should hit very, very hard. Haven't really said Serqet much. Kivo Fred being very quiet in this game as we see TRIG Esports sort of siege down this tower, trying to just push. They know that Fnatic really hasn't been able to play fantastic defense. They do a little bit, and then TRIG just takes out their frontliners. So they're going to go with the split push mechanic and see what they could do to thin out the ranks of Fnatic and really attack where it hurts.
Well, they're going to take this tier 2, uncontested here. Sylvanus starts to wander over that way, but TRIG's tank, great position in there. We'll cut them off, and they'll take this tier 2 for free. And well, it's up to TRIG to kind of do whatever they want here now. It's a question of what's the play, what's the split out of the team, and how they want to go for it. TRIG's tank gets a nice angle. That's rooted out nicely, however, by Badja. That'll stop any further initiation. But second tier 2 conceded here, and it's just the Phoenixes remaining for Fnatic as TRIG, Fire Giant buff and all, comes surging down this left side lane. They want to find this Phoenix next as it sets up their Fire Giant play really nicely.
We've been talking about this since the beginning of the broadcast, Bart, just about how TRIG Esports is really this time bomb waiting to explode, and if Fnatic let the game go too long, they really would be fighting an uphill battle. Well, we're here, and TRIG Esports is shoving a gun down Fnatic's face. What can Fnatic really do? Because we're watching them not be able to really defend. How are they supposed to handle the situation? Because right now it just doesn't, it looks very bleak.
Yeah, you saw Funball just get a few pot shots off of a Badja and take the tree. The tank down to about 50% HP. Here comes Azalea. He's found his way to the backlines. They have the stuns, and he's just going to zone out. Not even necessarily looking for the damage, more just trying to keep players from being able to find this fight squarely and let them secure this Phoenix. As you can see, the rest of TRIG nicely focusing on that objective, and they've been really on top of the objective play this whole game. Azalea will finally take a spill. In the meantime, Captain Twig dives in the backside, finds a kill for himself, but does go down in the process. It's a Phoenix, but it could have been much worse for Fnatic as they hold well, they stop the bleeding, I guess, just at that one Phoenix.
They still lose the Phoenix. Worth noting is that Fnatic's left-hand Phoenix has respawned, so that's not going to be a problem. Maniac definitely has a problem stuck between a rock and a tree place. Ra goes ahead and ults, but it's off the mark, so finally Badja gets a grab, but no follow-up. Just enough for a little bit of CC, and Cupid going to get flipped. Real's in a little bit of trouble.
Beads are used by Reals, the dash as well. He's going to heart bomb out onto Ra, but that's just going to be a tickle him for now as that Lotus Crown bonus healing, and that big pillar of light will heal them back up nicely. Not to mention the Fire Giant buff that's still active, and you can see why Serqet's a problem there is those big red numbers come out. A lot of crits. And if you get a pluck into a Hercules stun, and then you get a couple in-hands from Xbalanque and the dash through from Fred Serqet, you're looking at a potential 25 to 3,000 damage out of that if everything's critting.
Yeah, if Serqet gets lucky or if Xbalanque gets lucky, you don't even need all of that, but both of those characters are liable to hit you for far, far too much percentage of your HP, so just a little bit of setup for this TRIG team as we approach a half hour is really, really what they need.
Well, yeah, this one, the ball is squarely in TRIG's court here. You can see Funballer. He's going to go solo the Gold Fury. I think this is going to be the second time he's going to do this one.
Yes.
And yeah, they do have the 2 Gold Furies already to their credit. This will be the third. Now, Fire Giant, he's about 20 seconds away, so that's definitely where TRIG is looking. Everyone knows where the next fight's going to happen. Fnatic, you can see shading to the right side of the map as well. So also, let's point out, look at the TRIG warding down near the Fnatic base. They have a very, very deep 2 sentry wards and quite a bit of wards besides that as well.
They want to see where Fnatic goes. As you exit the base, whether you go to left-hand side, right side of the line, they want to see how many people are shading towards the Fire Giant, really, I would guess.
Well, Fire Giant, he is the next spot of action. 35 minutes in, and really there's not much to say about this one except for a fight's going to happen. And you can be very sure it's going to happen. You see Serqet off on the flank here. Thor's moved forward a bit, and one thing I do want to point out here is that Captain Twig has elected to not build into the Magi's Blessing. It's much more damage-oriented. Runeforge Hammer and a Brawler's Beat Stick. This is very unconventional for what we see out of a Thor normally. Right. It's heavily, heavily based in penetration, but he's not scaring anybody right now, not even with this build. It's just not enough damage, and given the tanky lineup plus the heals out of TRIG. So a little bit of wasted efficiency in the gold from Captain Twig here. And he doesn't have that Magi's Blessing to help save him. Maniac gets plucked. That beam will hit both of the tanks. Now they're kind of forced to initiate here. Thor comes in, Kukulkan's on top of it, but it's a bit off of the mark as the timing was not perfect there. Cuba Fred finds himself in the middle of a Hades ultimate, and now here comes the rest of TRIG. Fnatic already quite low. No one can fight Xaylia as he just river dances on everybody here. Well, Cupid maybe going to live here, but no, Xaylia will have his spells available to him once again, and Hades may get cleaned up as well. No, they're going to charge right past him and pick up zeros. It's already 2 members dead. Everyone else critical on the side of Fnatic, and TRIG Esports maybe securing themselves a game here now with these last set of picks. It's going to be another Fire Giant buff their way with already the mid Phoenix down. This could be their opportunity to go ahead and win this bad boy as they take just a peach of a fight there, the Fire Giant.
Rills has been a complete non-factor on this Cupid. You know, it could just be the game, Bart, but it definitely seems like it's a different mentality.
Oh, Lobster. That would have been a splendid shot, sir, but not to be the case.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
I agree with you. Yeah, Reels has not brought the action with the Cupid. It's an early game squad for Fnatic, and they elect to take it late game. I mean, by choice. Yeah, they tried to go late with this bad boy, and well, they built too many tanky items. I think maybe to go that late, and they didn't play to their drafts. As maybe my biggest takeaway here. As you can see, Badger getting plucked again. Maniac doing what he can, but you know, Hades just doesn't excel from behind in these situations. Just not his in-hands are not a threat to anybody ever, and his cooldowns are long. So you really got to make the best of those initiations with Hades. He's a pretty decent lane dominator, but if he's not going all in the fights, it's not so great for him.
Very, very true about that Hades. You know, technically he's a Guardian. His thought process at one point was to be a support character, so his long cooldowns and heavy sort of like effect on that 2-second silent sphere is really reflected in that. He just happens to be able to completely dominate a lane. So when it comes to late game, you really have to be very meticulous and particular about when and where you attack. Right. Divios really nailed it, and you saw how small adjustments are positioning yourself so that they get feared in the correct direction, and all these small, real intricacies that make Hades good is definitely not on Maniac's side at the moment. So looks to be just a rough game for Fnatic, but as Bart said earlier, not playing towards the draft. These characters all do very well in the mid and early game even, and late game not so hot, whereas TRIG has the opposite. So letting this game go to about 38 minutes, almost 40 minutes, is exactly what TRIG and the rest of the
TRIG's just like not in any rush here.
Yeah.
You know, they have the Fire Giant buff. Normally you would see a little bit of alacrity, little get up and go out of these guys as they as this buff does not last forever, but they're perfectly happy to farm off the waves, kind of just maximize everything. Their damage curves and their ability curves continue to go up, where Fnatic is definitely flattened out at this point. And this is what could be the final siege coming out now. It's a nice wall from Captain Swing to slow it down for the moment, but as we mentioned, there it is, that raw heal. They're just a siege engine here, is TRIG Esports. There's not much Fnatic can do about it. There's not a lot of spread anti-heal to have outside of that weakening curse on Badja, and well, keep an eye on him as his initiation. That's what we haven't seen. We haven't seen this kind of these initiations out of these tanks yet. It's got to start with Hades, and here he goes.
Left-hand side, Phoenix is only half HP as it has been killed once before. So TRIG looking for the Firebird and really shouldn't have much trouble hitting this one down for the count. Those branching bolas, even if you're not hitting the Phoenix, you're hitting somewhere near it, you're going to go ahead and deal damage to it. So should just be a matter of time this one comes down. Fnatic trying to mate their defense. Fnatic is under attack as far as their Titan is concerned, but Xellia is hitting the gas pedal. He's got one, Serqet gets the other, and the damage is too big. I don't think Fnatic can really hold
Xellia is just a brilliant player there. I mean, they finally get the initiation they're looking for to Fnatic. They get that Hades ultimate perfectly timed up and squared up with the ultimate out of Kukulkan, and they secured on a target. They did a great job there. However, once everyone charged forward, they forgot that the baby was going to be unchecked in the backside there, and he just stomps on everybody. TRIG Esports takes game number 1 here in a best of 3.
Yeah, TRIG Esports really just playing knowledgeably. They understood what they needed to, what their characters did, and what their draft was supposed to do, and they executed precisely.
They got handed a peach there. It was like, hey, you want to take a game 45 minutes? With Xbalanque and Vamana, like, yeah, great, let's do that.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, I think it was 16, 18 minutes in, the first kill in the game that did not have many. And the first blood went to the side of Kukulkan, which was actually Fnatic.
And, well, you see how this one rolls out, and it's zeros as the mid laner for Fnatic. And there was your first blood. And, well, we didn't really see that combination executed again until the final stand right outside that Phoenix. So, yeah, I think we laid it out for you pretty accurately there. Basically, Fnatic had this squad that excelled really in right outside the laning phase through the mid game and needed to win in about 30 minutes. We're unable to execute it, and the game went long, and you saw what happened. So, and a lot of that goes to the credit of one very large but very fresh-faced young man. It's Xellia on Vamana, player of your game here at 7-1-5.
Wow.
But his game impact a lot bigger than those 12 kills he was involved with. Really picked some excellent times. Once again here, you see the initiation comes out, and he just goes right into that ultimate form and charges to the backline. He just does this all game. And then Odysseus Bow, a great pickup here.
Yeah.
It really kind of made it shine. Always was fighting 1 or 2 targets. Didn't really seem to have a strong priority or preference for who he was fighting. Just wanted to fight in these engagements and did so exceptionally well.
One of the things that I really liked as the game came to a close, as we mentioned, it took so long that we actually saw some 3,000 pots come out. Xellia bought a 3,000 defense pot.
Yeah.
So that just made him even more tanky at that point in the game. Sort of what you see here is he's not trying to be the aggressor, try to kill you. He's trying to be the aggressor, try to make you go home, so his team can take care of objectives. He's here just literally pushing the opponent out of the way. Damage is a side bonus. He's just trying to get them off.
Yeah, you can see, I mean, this is basically just, here's every engagement that he's involved in, and you can see exactly what he does.
Yep.
Just runs forward as the initiation comes out and starts hitting the closest person he can find. If it's a Sylvanus and they're in an objective, he's going to stick to him. If not, he's going to look for basically any other damage dealer. Yeah. And there he finds the Cupid, and we'll find the Kukulkan as well here. So hats off to Xellia. Really nicely played in this game, and they take game 1 out of 3. That'll lead us right into, guys, to a 5-minute break. We'll be back with game number 2 out of this best of 3. Can TRIG seal the deal here and improve their record, or will Fnatic find their first win of the set? Find out in just a few minutes, guys. We'll be back with game number 2 here from week number 2, day number 3.